Hi everyone, welcome back to KG Graves. In June 2009, we went to the city of Salem in Massachusetts, USA, and I spent a whole day recording video footage about the witches of Salem. Sadly, when I got home back to the UK, I realised that I'd actually wiped out all of that footage, so you can imagine I was quite devastated. Fast forward to 2023, and I spent another day filming footage all around the city. This particular video is about the witch trials of 1692, quite gruesome. Thanks for watching. Massachusetts is the sixth US state, also known as the Bay State, whose capital is Boston. This video is about the city of Salem in the county of Essex. It will focus mainly on the witch trials of 1692, where many people were executed, and also include the monument of Elizabeth Montgomery and the House of the Seven Gables, which was featured in the TV show Bewitched. Everything in and around Salem seems to be related to witchcraft. Some of Salem's police cars have witch logos on them. A public elementary school is known as Witchcraft Heights, and the Salem High School athletics team are known as the Witches. The Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. More than 200 people were accused. 30 people were found guilty, 19 of whom were executed by hanging, 14 women and 5 men. One other man, Giles Corey, 81, died under torture after refusing to enter a plea of innocent or guilty, thus avoiding the noose and instead dying an innocent man. The judges applied an archaic form of punishment called pene forte et dure, in which stones were piled on his chest until he could not breathe. This lasted for 2 days until he died. At least 5 people died in the disease-ridden jails without trial. William Hathorne was a prosperous entrepreneur in early Salem and became one of its leading citizens. His son, Judge John Hathorne, came to prominence in the late 17th century when witchcraft was a serious felony. Judge Hathorne is the best known of the witch trial judges, and he became known as the hanging judge for sentencing accused witches to death. The grand juries and trials for this capital crime were conducted by a court of oyer and terminer in 1692 and by a superior court of judicature in 1693, both held in Salem town, the regional centre for Salem village, where the hangings also took place. It was the deadliest witch hunt in the history of colonial North America. 14 other women and 2 men were executed in Massachusetts and Connecticut during the 17th century. Salem witch trials only came to an end when serious doubts began to arise amongst leading clergymen about the validity of the spectral evidence that had been used to justify so many of the convictions, and due to the sheer number of those accused, including several prominent citizens of the colony. The events initially started in February 1692. Betty Parris, age 9, and her cousin Abigail Williams, age 11, the daughter and the niece, respectively, of Reverend Samuel Parris, began to have fits described as beyond the power of epileptic fits or natural disease to effect, by John Hale, the minister of the nearby town of Beverly. The girls screamed, threw themselves about the room, uttered strange sounds, crawled under furniture, and contorted themselves into peculiar positions, according to the eyewitness account of Reverend Deodat Lawson, a former minister in Salem village. The girls complained of being pinched and pricked with pins. A doctor, historically assumed to be William Griggs, could find no physical evidence of any ailment. Other young women in the village began to exhibit similar behaviours. When Lawson preached as a guest in the Salem village meeting house, he was interrupted several times by outbursts of the afflicted. The first 3 people accused and arrested for allegedly afflicting Betty Parris, 9, Abigail Williams, 11, Ann Putnam Jr., 12, and Elizabeth Hubbard, 17, were Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba. The accusations centred around the concept of affliction, and the women accused of having caused physical and mental harm to the girls through witchcraft. Some historians believe that the accusation by Ann Putnam Jr. suggests that a family feud may have been a major cause of the witch trials. Tituba, an enslaved South American Kalina woman from the West Indies, likely became a target because of her ethnic differences from most of the other villagers. She was accused of afflicting girls like Abigail Williams and Betty Parris with stories of enchantment. These tales about sexual encounters with demons, swaying the minds of men, and fortune-telling were said to stimulate the imagination of girls and made Tituba an obvious target of accusation. Each of these women was a kind of outcast and exhibited many of the character traits typical of the usual suspects for witchcraft accusations. They were left to defend themselves. Brought before the local magistrates on the complaint of witchcraft, they were interrogated for several days, starting on the 1st of March 1692, then sent to jail. In March, others were accused of witchcraft. Martha Corey, Dorothy Good and Rebecca Nurse in Salem Village, and Rachel Clinton in nearby Ipswich. Martha Corey had expressed scepticism about the credibility of the girls' accusations and thus drawn attention. The charges against her and Rebecca Nurse deeply troubled the community because Martha Corey was a full covenanted member of the church in Salem Village, as was Rebecca Nurse in the church of Salem Town. If such upstanding people could be witches, the townspeople thought then anybody could be a witch, and church membership was no protection from accusation. Dorothy Good, the daughter of Sarah Good, was only 4 years old, but was not exempted from questioning by the magistrates. Her answers were construed as a confession that implicated her mother. In Ipswich, Rachel Clinton was arrested for witchcraft at the end of March on independent charges unrelated to the afflictions of the girls in Salem Village. The initial examinations included physical exams where the accused were examined for unique markings such as moles, birthmarks that were commonly believed to be associated with the devil's influence. It was thought that those markings represented the devil drinking the accused women's blood. Many more arrests were made. Some were released and rearrested, brought before magistrates, examined and found guilty. Sarah Osborne, one of the first 3 persons accused, died in jail on the 10th of May 1692. The court of Oyer and Terminer convened in Salem town on the 2nd of June. Bridget Bishop's case was the first brought to the grand jury, who endorsed all the indictments against her. Bishop was described as not living a Puritan lifestyle, for she wore black clothing and odd costumes, which was against the Puritan code. When she was examined before her trial, Bishop asked her about her coat, which had been awkwardly cut or torn in 2 ways. This, along with her immoral lifestyle, affirmed to the jury that Bishop was a witch. She went to trial the same day and was convicted. On the 3rd of June, the grand jury endorsed indictments against Rebecca Nurse and John Willard, but they did not go to trial immediately for reasons which are unclear. Bishop was executed by hanging on the 10th of June 1692. From the 30th of June through to early July, grand juries endorsed indictments. against Sarah Good, Elizabeth Howe, Susanna Martin, Elizabeth Proctor, John Proctor, Martha Carrier, Sarah Wilders, and Dorcas Hall. Sarah Good, Elizabeth Howe, Susanna Martin and Sarah Wilders, along with Rebecca Nurse, went to trial at this time, where they were found guilty. All 5 women were executed by hanging on the 19th of July. In August, grand juries indicted George Burroughs, Mary Easter, Martha Corey, and George Jacobs Sr. Trial juries convicted Martha Carrier, George Jacobs Sr., George Burroughs, John Willard, Elizabeth Proctor, and John Proctor. Elizabeth Proctor was given a temporary stay of execution because she was pregnant. On the 19th of August 1692, Martha Carrier, George Jacobs Sr., George Burroughs, John Willard, and John Proctor were executed. Mr. Burroughs was carried in a cart with others through the streets of Salem to execution. When he was upon the ladder, he made a speech for the clearing of his innocence, with such solemn and serious expressions as were the admiration of all present. Many more executions were carried out throughout the year, some even after being referred to a superior court. This whole situation is believed to have been caused by a feud between 2 families, the Porters and the Putnams, who had members of their families on various committees and then accused each other's families and friends of being witches. It was also said that they manipulated their children into making these accusations. In the years after the trials, several of the accusers, mostly teenage girls, admitted that they have fabricated their charges. In 1702, the General Court of Massachusetts declared the trials unlawful, and in 1711 the colonial legislature annulled the convictions, passing a bill mentioning 22 individuals by name and reversing their accusations. Although the last trial was held in May 1693, public response to the events continued. In the decades following the trials, survivors and family members and their supporters sought to establish the innocence of the individuals who were convicted and to gain compensation. In the following centuries, the descendants of those unjustly accused and condemned have sought to honour their memories. At the 300th anniversary event held in Salem and Danvers 1992 to commemorate the victims of the trials, a park was dedicated in Salem and a memorial in Danvers. In 1957, an act passed by the Massachusetts legislature absolved 6 people, while another one, passed in 2001, absolved 5 other victims. As of 2004, there was still talk about exonerating or pardoning all of the victims. On the 26th of May 2022, the last convicted Salem witch, Elizabeth Johnson Jr., was officially exonerated 329 years after she had been found guilty. In January 2016, the University of Virginia announced its Gallows Hill project team had determined the execution site in Salem where the 19 witches had been hanged. The city dedicated the Proctor's Ledge Memorial to the victims there in 2017. Now let's look at a lighter topic. Bewitched is an American fantasy sitcom television series that originally aired for 8 seasons in America on ABC from the 17th of September 1964 to the 25th of March 1972. It is about a witch who marries an ordinary mortal man and vows to lead the life of a typical suburban housewife. The main character was Samantha Stevens, played by Elizabeth Montgomery. In June 2005, a bronze statue was unveiled of Elizabeth in Salem. One episode in Bewitched, called Samantha's Hot Bed Warmer, Season 7, Episode 4, featured the famous House of the Seven Gables, also known as the Turner House or Turner Ingersoll Mansion. It is a 1668 colonial mansion in Salem, Massachusetts, named for its gables. It was made famous by Nathaniel Hawthorne's 1851 novel, The House of the Seven Gables. The house is now a non-profit museum with an admission fee charged for tours. It was built by Captain John Turner, a wealthy sea captain and merchant who was born in Salem, Massachusetts in 1644. The earliest section of the house, built in 1668 for Captain Turner, the property remained in his family's possession for 3 generations, descending from John Turner II to John Turner III. It was originally a 2-room, 2.5-story house with projecting front porch and a massive central chimney. This portion now forms the middle of the house. 4 windows of the original ground floor room, which became a dining room, remained in the house's side wall. A few years later, a kitchen, lean-to and a new north kitchen to the rear of the house were added. By 1676, Turner had added a spacious south front extension with its own chimney, containing a parlour on the ground floor with a large bedchamber above it. Ceilings in this new wing are higher than the very low ceilings in older parts of the house. The new wing featured double casement windows and an overhang with carved pendants. It was capped with a 3-gabled garret. In the first half of the 18th century, John Turner II remodelled the house in the new Georgian style, adding wood panelling and sash windows. These alterations are preserved, very early examples of Georgian decor. The House of the Seven Gables is one of the oldest surviving timber-framed mansion houses in continental North America, with 17 rooms and over 8,000 square feet, including its large cellars. After John Turner III lost the family fortune, the house was acquired by the Ingersolls, who remodelled it again. Gables were removed, porches replaced, and Georgian trim added. That concludes this video. First, the awful deaths of the innocent victims of the Salem witch trials, and then a more light-hearted look at Bewitched. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.
Hi everyone, it's Kev. Welcome back to KG Graves. We're in Salem in Massachusetts in the USA, and we're looking at where the Bewitched television programme was filmed, and this is the House of the Seven Gables. Thanks for watching. See you soon.